Flood Firefight was released back in April 2022, and it was one of the largest updates to ever come to Halo 3 ODST within the Master Chief Collection. This was the first time the Flood could be fought in a Halo Firefight mode other than Halo Wars 2, so there was a lot of excitement for firefight enthusiasts. When the mode originally came out, it was pretty well received by the community. However, after I was replaying the mode extensively recently, I have seen some of its flaws. Don't get me wrong though, it's still a fun mode with some nice additions. However, there are some glaring issues both with gameplay and with glitches. To start off with some of the nice additions they've done, they have added battle rifles and assault rifles as pickups, which weren't previously available in ODST Firefight. They spawn after every round, just like how the power weapons, the silenced pistol, and SMG spawns every round. Additionally, to set the mood for the mode, they add this fog when the match starts. It gives a bit of that horror atmosphere when fighting the Flood. They also added AI teammates. Day missions you get Marines, and night missions you get Elites. They aren't added to every single map though. Gameplay wise, they are a bit of a hit or miss. Sometimes they can do really well with weapons you give them, or they can do absolutely nothing with them. Note to self, don't give an Elite a gravity hammer, or it'll probably end up looking like this. You gotta be careful though, because your own teammates could get infected. Also, if you die, your dead body could also get infected. They also gave the Flood the ability to use vehicles. They weren't able to do that in Halo 3, but now they're able to do it in Halo 3 ODST Firefight. Thus, brand new animations had to be made for the Flood to get in and out of vehicles. Overall, these are some nice additions to the mode, and I'm happy 343 were able to do it for Flood Firefight. However, I do have some issues with the mode, some that are just minor nitpicks and others that truly need fixing. The most major fix that 343 could do is include a firefight playlist where the match only ends when all of your team's lives are lost. This could go for not only Flood Firefight, but regular Firefight too. Playing only one set is pretty easy for the most part. The harder skulls like Black Guy or Mythic don't get turned on at all, so you're not going to reach those more difficult waves. You do get Tough Luck in round 1, Famine in round 2, and Tilt in round 3, but that's about it. Tilt is the skull that has the most effect on the difficulty, since it makes the shielded enemies really resistant to non-energy weapons. It's rewarding playing through the sets, since the game gets much harder the further you are instead of playing just one set. Also, the Thunderstorm skull does not work for some reason, even if it's included in the official Flood Firefight mode for set 2. This skull should make all brute and elite enemies upgraded to have shields, and you have to switch between plasma weapons and human weapons to take them down. However, the skull straight up does not turn on, even if you have the setting that it does turn on. So only some brutes and elites have shields and others do not. I'm not entirely sure why this skull does not work. There are also a lot of issues with Flood AI. Sometimes they just can't track you and just stay in place or just walk around in circles. Sometimes you have to travel to where they spawn for them to just start chasing you and attack you. This really sucks because it would be nice if they were all chasing after you from the start. Many times the Flood just come in small packs instead of all at once. So a lot of times you really don't get that feeling like you're pushed up against the wall fighting for survival. Also, they should tweak the tank Flood AI. The Flood tanks are supposed to be one of the strongest Flood enemies in the game. However, this is how they approach you up close. They do start sprinting at you from a distance, but when they get really close, they decide to start walking. And then they walk into fire even after seeing their fellow Flood tank burning up. Imagine if multiple Flood tanks were sprinting after you around the map and you had to be able to dodge their attacks in order to get a few shots in on them. That would be pretty scary and intense. But no, they will just slowly walk towards you as you either throw a firebomb grenade at them or use up all your ammo to take them out. The ranged Flood in this mode are actually pretty annoying to fight. They are bullet sponges where you have to use all your ammo to kill them unless you have a rocket launcher or sticky grenades or the firebomb grenade. Some maps are completely unbearable because they spawn numerous amounts of ranged Flood and there's barely any cover. However, on other maps where you have decent cover, they aren't that bad. The two things 343 could do to make these ranged Flood enemies more bearable is to reduce their health and reduce the amount of them that spawn. The Sentinels are also annoying. If you're not close to cover and they start shooting their beams at you, you're most likely gonna die immediately. Plasma weapons are the best way to take them out, and then after you get a Sentinel beam from them, then the rest of them aren't too bad to kill. They don't have that much health compared to the ranged Flood, so they're more bearable. Also, this is mostly a nitpick, but I don't like how some maps the Flood just spawns out of nowhere. It would be cool if they spawned like they do in the Halo 3 campaign where they come falling down from the sky. It's kind of boring where they spawn out of nowhere and then just start walking. Now, despite all I have said, I still enjoy the mode. I played multiple times by myself because I really do think that co-op does take away from that fighting for survival type of feeling, especially if you're only playing for one set. I played a few times on Legendary, but the ranged Flood forms do make it unbearable at times, so I switched to Heroic instead. I played on the map Rally Point Night and completed 4 sets by myself, and it was genuinely fun. I would not say the first 2 sets were all that difficult. If the Thunderstorm Skull activated in set 2, it would actually make the mode really difficult. Some of the early rounds, you could just get a really bad streak and die a lot. However, the mode does change with the Black Guy Skull turned on in the 3rd set. This skull makes it that you have to melee an enemy in order to regain stamina. You already melee a lot since most of the enemies charge at you. However, knowing that your stamina is able to recharge after meleeing an enemy, you're encouraged to melee. Thus, you can get into a lot of heavy melee fights and not suffer too much damage. This skull does make fighting enemies with human weapons very difficult since battle rifles and assault rifles can melt you really quick. It also makes the ranged Flood and Sentinels pretty tough to handle since you're not in the best position to melee them and they can easily flank you from afar. What really made playing solo truly difficult was the Mythic Skull. This doubled all enemy health, and at that point I really needed teammates. I would get into melee battles with shielded elite Flood forms since I was too afraid to look for a plasma weapon since I thought I would die in the midst of searching and swapping weapons. At that 4th set, my lives were down by a lot. That last round, I ran out of lives and I had to survive with no lives left. That spawn room was my safe haven from all the enemies. I was finally able to make it through and complete the 4th set, but not so sure how well I would have done on the 5th set with very little lives. The mode isn't exactly scary despite playing solo. You're still pretty strong for a non-Spartan, however, there are certain enemies that could sneak up on you. Probably the most terrifying enemy in the game are the human Flood forms carrying rocket launchers. They usually appear in the last wave of a round, so at least you do kind of expect it, but you don't know from which direction they would be coming from. If you aren't prepared for them, you could end up like this. The invisible brutes also could sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. The visor mode does allow you to see them coming, but for most of my time in Flood Firefight, I tried to refrain from using it. I wanted to stay on edge for as much as possible without being able to see the invisible brutes coming. Sometimes I could still see the silhouette of the active camo, so I was able to take out groups before they got too close. If you already don't like the way the Flood fight, then this mode will not change your mind. Many in the Halo community think that the Flood is boring to fight because they do not have any strategy when fighting you. They don't dodge, they don't throw grenades, they don't take cover, they charge at you while shooting their weapon if they have one, and that's about it. So I do understand that perspective. However, if you're like me and enjoy a mode where you feel like you're being overwhelmed by an infinite onslaught of zombie-like enemies, then this mode is for you. I do think the mode needs some tweaking, but overall, I did enjoy it. They really need to add a playlist though for both Flood Firefight and regular Firefight where the match ends when all lives are lost. One set is just too short for me. What are your opinions on Flood Firefight? Let me know what you all think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.